Do you like cottage cheese?
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. Isn't it? I quite like it. It's all right. You're listening to the Beat Motel Podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like and echo syllables, that'll put them off, biscuits, and we don't often bleep those words out.
People trying to listen to our podcast.
We're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on. Off.
Every time I cough, I always think of Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or, Method Man. M-E-T-H-O-D, man.
I don't know that one.
There's some coughing at the beginning of Method Man by Wu-Tang Clan, and when they made the Wu-Tang Saga, there's certain key points that you're like, hey, I hope they reenact when such and such happens, like when ODB jumped out of a second-story window because he was doing ODB stuff. And like, yeah, that's in there. And they made real kind of careful to do the Method Man coughing bit. So like this is like, hey, Method Man, now cough. And he goes, I think he says, yo, Muddy Funster, take a little sip on that blunt, or something like that. Because he had an Ipswich accent, RZA, of course.
Yes. And he was white. He was a wigger as well.
Oh, God,
Can we use that term any of these days? I think it's okay.
Let's just move straight on, shall we? This is your riff of the week. I haven't heard that term for years.
Yeah, exactly.
That is definitely Sam music. What's that?
That's Laibach with the Slovenian National Orchestra. I think the Slovenian National Orchestra. With a song called Fedayeen. And it's 8 minutes long. It doesn't have the normal sort of barking. It sounds fucking brilliant and mental and fantastic and like so big.
I could see myself getting into that. I mean, on first listening, it just sounds batshit crazy. But obviously, there's only 30 seconds because that's all we can play. But pronounce it Laibach? Are they Austrian or something?
No, they're Slovenian.
Oh, that makes sense because they're using the Slovene. So I thought it was odd that one of the big baddies in the David Tennant Doctor Who thing were called the Slovenes. I was thinking, isn't that just people from Slovenia? Like vaguely BBC inspired racism. Although the idea of a Slovene orchestra, as in the alien race, all playing trombones and stuff, is quite cool.
So I'm trying to figure out if wigger is offensive.
You looking it up?
Yeah.
Please tell me which words are offensive, and we'll get the channel demonetized. Well, we'd have to be monetized to start with, to be fair.
I mean, Merriam-Webster says a usually young white person whose clothing, language, and mannerisms are regarded as imitative of those stereotypically associated with African Americans. I get people taking offence to being called a wigger, but I don't think the term is like it's an acceptable.
I'll tell you what, I'll put you saying it on a clip and then put it on socials and see what response we get.
I can already feel the cancellations.
We're getting some nice comments at the moment, actually, which is a bit disappointing. We're getting a lot of people just celebrating the music we're talking about and agreeing with us, which I find really confusing. It's kind of more fun when people say, "Oh, you're just a moron," or "You're just a gatekeeper," or whatever, and I was just replying, "Yes."
I mean, look, if there's sort of a intelligent conversation to be had about the use of a term derived from an extremely offensive term to make jest of some people. Well, I don't have it's an interesting debate to have. So I'm all for that. But
hoping for interesting debates in the comments of our YouTube channel is it's slightly desperate. It's like trying to find a fart in a wind tunnel.
well,
I think.
my wife played me some fucking YouTuber of talking about describing sort of the modern depictions of women in gaming.
Oh, bloody
And
hell.
he was just such a fucking incel.
Oh, God.
But
See,
at this
naturally,
point,
because of our safe little bubble, I'd assume it would be somebody who would be pointing out how bad it is, but no,
no,
they weren't.
she was looking for examples of misogynistic twats, and she found a very good example, and yeah, it's just you know, um, I, I I only want to offend the right people to offend. Like I don't want to offend people I like. Apart from some people, I want to upset some people I like just purely through. Uh,
Just because you're nasty.
yeah, just like. But
Because of your
anyway,
cold heart.
that Laibach sound is it's fucking so big and it's amazing. And oh god, yeah.
I've never really figured out who they are or what they do, but I know they've put out a lot of stuff. I heard something they did with the Melvins. That's probably
No, I
quite a
don't
while ago. A stoned Pope or something like that. Which I imagine he is. If is he still in hospital?
think
Is the Pope in hospital listening to
I mean,
Laibach?
I wouldn't think the Melvins would understand Laibach.
I'm sure it was Melvins and Laibach. It was called Stoned Pope or something like that. Anyone who wants to shout at their radio or whatever right now.
No, that doesn't exist.
What the hell am I thinking of?
I don't know. The Melvins don't strike me. I mean, Buzz doesn't strike me capable of having the sense of humour to understand a European art movement. No offensive to Buzz, but he doesn't strike me as a particularly nuanced human being.
He's someone who I don't know if I'd want to meet.
No,
And
so.
people were shouting adulation at him when we were watching them set up at ATP, and he stopped and he pointed at someone in the crowd and he went to open his mouth and say something, and then like a roadie tapped him on the shoulder or something. He got distracted. I was like, no, I wanted to know what he was going to say. It's like I really want to know, because he was he didn't look pleased, but he didn't look angry. He looked supercilious.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me that he would have a sense of humour to enjoy a band who did a German language version of Queen songs.
Come on, that's what they're missing, clearly.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of what Melvins are missing from the music is a sense of humour. But I mean, I stand by this as a person who has a lot of Melvins albums. Why are we talking about this? Go on. I'm just digging myself holes here.
It's just fun. I like it. I mean, I don't deliberately sort of throw you under the bus. You just do it perfectly well by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Melvins have just announced they're touring the UK soon, and they're playing Norwich Waterfront, which would be quite a cool venue to see them in. But a friend of mine summed it up really well. He said, if you knew what flavour of Melvins you're going to get, it would be easier to buy a ticket. Because at ATP, they were... Well, you and I have seen them ATP. We saw them at the Garage, which was pretty good. They did like 3 songs, then went off and came on and played something really, really old. But then we saw them at Alexandra Palace, and I'm sure it's the Melvins being the Melvins. They did such a weird set supporting Slayer and Sleep. They did their like weird Marine call out thing. Mom, I'd shove it. All that kind of stuff. You'd go and see them, whatever, would you?
No, I went through a phase of being quasi obsessed with the Melvins, and that phase has sort of gone the other way to the point where I think I don't know. I heard they've got a new album coming out because of course they do, because they don't seem to have an ability to filter themselves. And I don't know. It all just becomes the same thing again and again and again and again, and you just
like
think,
no effects.
well, yeah, well, you know what? Why don't you try and write? Why don't you try some different tuning? Like, why don't you just try normal tuning? Why don't you try and write like a Beatles pop song-ish type thing, or like, just try something else rather than repeating your signature all the time. And this goes mostly for Buzz, because I can't. Del Crover is just one of the most incredible drummers on the planet.
Part of the thing that did make me consider buying a ticket, Dom, my drummer's already bought a ticket, is they're doing Del Crover and the other lad. They're doing a 2-drummer tour.
That will be with a big business guy as well. He'll be doing the same. So I'd go and see that. Shit, I'd go and see Melvins as a 4-piece with big business again.
I'd go see them just to see the drummers, because it's really the cool thing. It's interesting you say about trying a normal tuning. I love a detuned guitar as much as the next idiot, but I do think some bands lean on it too much, because you can. Look, the guitar. Anyone watching on video, the guitar behind me, that's tuned to B standard. So you shove that through some distortion. You can do pretty much anything slow, and it will sound cool. Even if it's discordant, it will still sound cool. And this can make me so unpopular. It's quite a lazy way of making something sound heavy. There used to be a band in Ipswich called This Morning After, morning spelt MOUR, of course. And I always thought they were in a drop tuning, and they recorded an album. They're on the same label as Bosk, and it's heavy as fuck. And I was like, what are you tuned to? And they're like, E. He said, they're long. I'm not going to give the whole conversation. And then he said, isn't the weather nice today? And I said, oh, it's unusual for a Tuesday to be at a gig. Anyway, and he said, it's not what you're tuned to, it's what you do with it. And that was, 15 years ago, that conversation problem, and it's stuck with me ever since. And my riff of the week, when it comes up, proves that you don't have to be low tuned to be fucking heavy and amazing. I was wrong. The Melvins didn't do a collaboration with Laibach. It was with Lustmord.
Yeah.
No, nothing like
Laibach are too.
Laibach.
I don't know how to say. Laibach are sort of, in my head, they're too European for an American band to really, really get.
Lustmord's some lad in northern Wales, isn't it, or something?
Don't check anything, do you?
No, I don't do a music podcast. Just basically, just make it up.
Yeah, he's Welsh.
Oh, okay. I'm slightly scared there.
But looking at his pictures, and he's got a laptop on stage, he doesn't have a sense of humour.
Yeah, he's known for industrial, drone, and ambient. I'm never sure what the difference between those things are.
That's not a man with a sense of humour.
Look at that man's face. He's never told a knob gag.
But I mean, you would hope that album cover, there's a sense of humour in it.
I would hope. This is a brilliant thing for a podcast to kind of be showing pictures of things. But what Sam's showing is a picture of Bobby Crush with his lad out. Speaking of noise and experimental stuff, I can't remember if I've told you this or not, co-host. For the next 6 weeks, there's going to be a series of short films coming out on the Beat Motel Podcast channel on YouTube. They're not going to be on the podcast. And it's 6 episodes that I kind of planned to do when we first started the podcast early on, before we really settled on the format. And I've given them as talks, a lot of them, and given them as presentations. So I thought I'd make them into videos. So every Wednesday for the next 6 weeks, a new video will come out every Wednesday at 6:00.
With Andrew with his lad out, explaining.
Just me with little googly eyes on my penis, and using my hand like that to make it talk.
That sounds great. I'd watch that.
At the end of each episode, we'll be charting my progress to my challenge to fit 50 10-pence pieces under my foreskin. So the monetary value will go up each week.
That's how we monetize this channel.
That's how we monetize it.
Anybody wants to advertise, just let us know.
No, we just put the video up on Only Glands.
Glands.
Oh dear! That's going on the big show reel that I send off to the shopping channels in the hope that they'll give me my own program on QVC.
I don't want to see what you would, how you would try and set a blender.
Not with my cock, that's for sure. You only make that mistake once.
You only have, yeah.
It's no longer long enough to flick over my shoulder after that. In all seriousness, yes. So the first episode of this series actually came out on Sunday night, and I made a 10-minute short film about what actually happens at a noise gig. I filmed it at Experimental in Bury St Edmunds on Saturday. So there's a sort of a look at the venue and a look at the vibe of the place, and it's actually, there's some quite brilliantly, I think, things that I think are funny on it. Matt, not going to talk work, but one of my employees was one of the performers, and he was chucking a massive dildo around and sticking it to people and essentially screaming at some modular synthesizers and then just having a full-on fit, basically. But in the middle of this, a friend of mine, Lewis, in the middle of this, leant over, and you can't talk because it's so insanely fucking loud. And he said, "Can you smell electrical burning?" I was like, "I can." So because I had the camera, I went out to Jay, the promoter. You see me walk out, and I go, "Jay, I can smell electrical burning in there," which it's not unusual at a noise gig because all the equipment's so sort of handmade. And I said, "Do you want to go check it out?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." And he goes in, he comes straight back out again. He's like, "Yeah, it's definitely there, but I'm not going to stop anything." And then beckons me to follow him into the disco toilet. And for that to make any sense, just watch the video. It's up on the Beat Motel channel. It's called "What Really Happens at a Noise Gig." But the next episode, which will be out by the time this podcast episode comes out, is a short video, or 20-minute video about the Replacements, because we've talked about them a whole bunch on here, and we've mentioned parts of their history. So about 6 months ago, I was asked to give a talk at a music group. So I did a presentation on the Replacements. So I turned it into a YouTube video, and it'll be out. It's out now, in fact. So that's enough self-whoring.
Right. Yeah.
But I just thought it'd be kind of an interesting thing, just because I didn't know what else to do with it, and I'd written the presentations and developed them. I don't like chucking anything away. You should see what it looks like underneath my bed. Right, on to my riff of the week, which I'm almost surprised you didn't choose. Oh, so that shows you don't have to be down-tuned to be heavy. That is, go on, Sam, who's that?
That's Have a Groony.
Is that how do you actually say it? Because I would just say have a crew new.
Have a crew.
How are you supposed to say it?
It's Have you crew maybe.
This album, can you say the name of the album properly? Because I'll just fuck it up. Because I'd say Talvikuna.
Tavastland.
This album came out last Friday, 2 Fridays ago by the time you're listening to this, and I loved the previous album. I saw them live at Tufnell Park Dome in the little downstairs bit that's like a pub, and just like, yeah, this is brilliant, and told you about it. Then this album came out, and you told me it had come out. I missed the fact it was coming out, and I first listened to it. I don't think I've had such an immediate love for an album the day it comes out for years. It's such a move on. It's such a development from the previous album.
Yeah, and it sort of goes into places that I don't normally like. Frankly, like what I would call battle metal, like sort of halfway house between Iron Maiden and death metal. Sort of melodic death metal. But then they do it so well, and the bassist, speaking as bassists, it's so nice to hear a good bass tone that is turned up, so you can actually hear it, because the bassist is actually doing some really quite interesting stuff. He shows you how bass can be used well and interestingly in extreme metal without just always backing up what the guitar's doing. The other aspect is they sort of bring in, like, just, I'd say, sort of like more sort of battle metal, but also do sort of rock and roll moments and rock moments, like big guitar solos, and the whole thing's just fucking done so big and massive, and it was interesting. I was sort of like vaguely interested in it. Because of you, because of what you had played before, and I was sort of going, oh, okay, I'll keep that one on my radar. And there was another album by another band that came out that day, and that other band's album is good. And I don't want to say the name because I don't want to dismiss the album. I think it's very good for what it is. But I've never had just like listening to the first thing of that, just like tick box, tick box, tick box. They do like, and this is a thing I'm seeing more and more of, but layered like metal vocals. Several people sort of doing different layers of sort of grunting and shouting at the same time, and it sounds so fucking big. And it's such a I'm sold on that album as well. I think it's the best black metal, adjacent near black metal album I personally have heard in ages.
I'm so taken with it, and even if I'm my wife's away at the moment, even if I'm just going on a short journey because I'm now at the age where I'm carting my child around, I will put it on just to hear a little bit of it, because each of the songs have got so many parts as well that just make sense. There's sometimes with metal that's trying to be clever, you get the sense they're just going, hey, we've got that really good riff, doesn't fit anywhere else, fuck it, cram it in here. This all makes total sense.
Yeah.
And you're right, it doesn't veer too close to Eurovision metal. There's some, God, the guys' voices, I'm guessing it's more than one person singing. Absolutely fantastic voice, really good. And I think you've probably got to be careful if you've got a classically brilliant voice that you don't sound like a Eurovision entry.
Yeah. And yeah, I think they do effort. They do everything. It's a very impressive display of control and sort of songwriting sort of intelligence in how to bring in so many different influences without losing, without one either going up your ass or two sounding like they don't fit well. There's nothing on that album which I just go, that doesn't fit. That's trying too hard. And it's so easy for that stuff when they're trying to cram all that stuff in for it to try hard, or for me to find like Eurovision metal really quite grating.
I'm going to put the review up of it on from Angry Metal Guy, which I'm starting to really like that website. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it talks about much the same thing. Like it's Bathory and Immortal, music interludes, big Viking choirs, which would put me off if I'd read the review first. Big Viking choirs and endless riff changes. And what really impresses me is how much I cough. The second half of the album's better, if anything, than the first half. And then right till the last song, I've kind of got a bit used to extreme metal albums front loading the good tracks at the start and then kind of petering out towards the end. This is a proper album. It's properly structured album. And it's 4 out of 5 on Angry Metal Guy, which is high praise indeed. But this, I realised when I heard this does for me something that I always wished Gaerea did. So I love Gaerea, but their new album is fucking great. It's brilliant. They've really moved forward, this clean singing on it, all sorts of brilliant stuff. But the production on it is so aggressive. If I go to my office, I'm in glamorous Studio B today, but Studio A, I've got massive, great big speakers and a huge old late 70s separate system. And I put the album on really loud. And of course, like all gay, or like a lot of male albums, it starts quite quiet. And when it kicked in, it actually sent a bolt of anxiety through me. Like really made me go, like a shiver, because it's so aggressive. And I'm not always in the mood for that. And it has got texture, but this album chucks stuff, it takes you on a journey.
Yeah, and I do think there's a thing, and I think this goes through all artists, like, and we'll talk about this as introductory stuff in a sec, and I think this might be a nice way to segue into introductory. It's about stuff that you return to sort of unconsciously in a way that you want to listen to again and again and again and again. And The Gay Rear album, I agree, is a good album. This is on another level, though. This is something that just sort of like it's got a sort of like it's got that end thing that makes you just want to turn it on again and again and again and again. And rather than and that's what that other album I was talking about earlier. That's what that doesn't have. Anyway, what are we talking about today, Andrew?
Just final point on Have a Crew Note. The production totally makes it. Right, so the theme
Big
this
album.
week.
It's like it's go back to that. It's like people are starting to crack metal production, and it's starting to sound good again, rather than sound like it has been copy and pasted on a computer by a drummer.
Yeah, which a lot of it has. Certainly, any metal I've made has been by me. Right, so the theme this week is quite an interesting one. I think this could probably be a podcast series in its own right. Did you come up with it or me?
Oh, it's you.
Okay, so I haven't really got the name sorted yet because I can't find one. I've written it down in my notes as bands to introduce friends to gay rear. Clearly not what I meant to write. I can't. Turns out I can't spell genre. Bands to introduce friends to a genre.
Junre. Genre.
It's not J. It's H. It's got a silent H and a number 7 in the middle. Yeah, so it's that title sucks, and I can't think of a better one. But it's
That's a French word.
If somebody said it's so bad, but you know that bit in Train Spotting where the guy who's like really fit into fitness and really kind of clean living says to Ewan McGregor's character, "I'd like to try heroin." If somebody came up to you and said, "I'd like to try free jazz," or we've got loads of different genres here, what would be the first thing that you showed them? You know, what would be the thing that would not necessarily have to be the best thing in the genre, but it'd be the thing that you warmed them up to? And to jump into that, we've got the most bizarre choice from you, Sam. Here's Sam's first track, and then, Jesus, I'm looking forward to the explanation for what genre this would be. Sam's track sounds like this.
I'm a goofy goober! What's happening? Huh? His dance moves are impressive, but I'm in control. Seize him!
I mean, that's how you start a solo, isn't it?
You need to see the. For anyone watching, I've just got dry hands, so I'm putting moisturiser on it. Anyone who's not watching, then that's what the squelching noise is, honestly. So without seeing the video, hearing this isolated from the video, it makes even less sense. But come on, what is it?
This is SpongeBob Goofy Goober Rock. From
sorry. I just throw my hands up to say what, and realising that stopped you from actually telling me what it is.
I chose this because I have a 5-year-old who is quasi-obsessed with SpongeBob SquarePants, and he fucking loves this song. He loves the video. He got me to show his teacher this video when I...
What, a parents' evening or something?
No, I just picked him up from it, and he was just going, show Goofy Goober Rock. And so I did, and he does air guitar. He watches it. He does air guitar. He jumps around. He requests the song. We've watched the song so many times, and it's more of that question of like, no one, like introductory music. It depends on the person. You're going to tailor it to. If you know that person, you're going to tailor it to. Oh, if you like that, you might like this. But he's coming at it from a perspective where he's just heard bits and pieces of music and probably heard far more music from TV than he's heard from, music in isolation. But this song and the video has quite a lot of quite clever approaches to the representation of rock. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. It's like pretty stupid, but at the same time, knowingly stupid. And so if my child ends up liking rock music because of SpongeBob and this song, it just like as a gateway drug to sort of going, oh, I like the feeling that guitar solo induces, that big moment. What more do you have like that? You go, the next thing you're going to go, well, it's AC/DC, isn't it? It's AC/DC.
You're right. The perfect gateway, and also at the perfect age.
Yeah. So you put on AC/DC Thunder. It's like, oh, this is such a. That's how I would think of like, what's next? It's AC/DC, and then what's next? I don't know, Guns N' Roses after that, or like anything with a lot of musical drama. And it's that thing of sometimes people who do interpretations of that music, they distill it in a way that with an understanding that sometimes people who are within the music don't have that sort of academic approach too. So, I mean, I think it's Lee Snyder, if that's his name, the Twisted Sister vocalist. I think that's the person who's singing it.
I got a list of the people who were involved in it because it sounds so good. It sounds so together. I just assumed it would be like, oh, there's this band, because on that movie, and SpongeBob sort of, we never aligned with SpongeBob. Somehow it just wasn't a thing that my child was into, and I've never seen it. The only place I've seen it is at yours, and I sit there thinking, this is brilliant.
Yeah. Tell Izzy I am disappointed in her.
She'll probably start watching it. She's become real sort of just absorbing loads of she's really into the Mighty Boosh at the moment. And I tried to watch it again and still went, this is twee self-congratulating bullshit.
Yeah.
There's a way to make myself unpopular. So I assumed it'd be a band, right? I assumed Goofy Goober Rock would just be a band, because involved in the soundtrack or in the film is Avril Lavigne, the Flaming Lips, fucking Wilco, like Avril Lavigne, sure, big famous person. We're making a movie, yeah, whatever. Flaming Lips, I can kind of see they'd be up for a laugh or anything. But Wilco, that is such a surprise. But I'm not going to read them because the Shins, bloody hell, there's absolutely loads. But that song, oh, it is Dee Snider. I apologise. Motorhead. Fucking Motorhead are on the soundtrack. Although it's credited, the writer is credited as Ian Fraser Killmeister.
Apparently, according to Reddit, it is based on I Wanna Rock by Twisted Sister.
But it's not. The list of people actually singing it is there's one of the guys was in the Dust Brothers. Like the 70s kind of like, were they kind of like yacht funk? Something like that. Right, that's a cracker. I really want to see this film.
Every SpongeBob film is worth it, but
I didn't know there was more than one.
There's like 4 now. There's a new one coming out tomorrow, and then there's another one coming out later in the year. This is how much about. I have a lot of time for SpongeBob. It is good. It is. If my child wants to watch it, I'm quite up for that. But not to the point of repetition he's interested in. But what I was going to say was Matt Berry is in the later movies.
That alone makes it worth watching, I think.
Yeah, anything on Matt Berry is worth a go.
I think when SpongeBob first came out, I think I slightly disregarded it because the previous, I'm assuming it's the same people that made Ren and Stimpy.
I think there's a link, but I don't think it's direct link. I mean, I don't know.
I just assumed it'd be the same thing. Like the whole purpose of Ren and Stimpy was to be weird for the sake of being weird, and just as an excuse to show cats throwing up furballs and all sorts of stupid stuff.
SpongeBob is sort of a glorious. It's about. I read a great quote today, and I'm going to try and highbrow this idea of what SpongeBob is about. And SpongeBob is really a reference to Kurt Vonnegut, the American writer, who said we're all here on Earth to fart around, and don't let anybody tell you any different. And that's what SpongeBob is about.
Brilliant. Yeah, I need to watch it with all my many hours of free time. No, I'm serious. I do want to see it because it's connected to me each time. A bit like The Simpsons. When I'm The Simpsons from day one, I was like, I like this. I haven't got to intellectualize why I like it. I just know I like it, and because I was then about to intellectualize it, which I won't.
The one I like the most. I don't know how it goes down with like the SpongeBob aficionados, but it's got Antonio Banderas in it.
I think that's the one I saw at your apartment.
Yeah, the SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob in the Water, Sponge in the Water. No, sorry, Sponge Out of Water. It's great. It takes the piss out of the whole superhero stuff.
Oh, good, because I'm not a fan of that. Right, I'm going to play my next track, although, to be honest, it is a vehicle for discussion and opening up new worlds. It kind of sucks compared to your choice, but I'm going to play it anyway. Do I have a guess who that was?
Oasis.
It's the Oasis's. It's Jeff Mills, and I chose it because I realised that sometimes if you're going to try and introduce someone to a new genre, you're better off kind of probably showing them the more challenging aspects of it as well. So Jeff Mills, I don't think is challenging, but I love that warehouse kick, the reverb on it, and it's got a little melody to it, which is very repetitive. But if you hear that and you don't like that, then I'm probably not going to play you much else of techno, because fair enough, you don't have to like everything.
No, I just think that's rubbish.
I'm not going to argue it, but there's shit techno, a lot of shit techno, and then there's techno. I can't be arsed. I'm going to play your next one. Oh my god, this reminds me so much of a band from Brighton called the Phil Collins 3. Do you remember them?
No, I don't.
They had that brilliant song Pooey Stick. Pooey Stick, because it starts like that and it goes on about 25 seconds. It then goes to a school choir going Pooey Stick, Pooey Stick, Pooey. Anyway, who was that glorious nonsense?
That's Naked City, Demon Sanctuary. And I think I can relate it to what you did. It's like, if you find something joyous in that, you're going to find something about the movement generally, about free, what I would call free jazz and post-free jazz. Like, if you find something joyful in what you played, you'll find some, there's something you'll find your way into it. If you find something joyful in that, then there's some sort of part of your brain that's just excited by it and just go for it. It's not easy listening. It's not it's challenging. And it's John Zorn is sort of known for his, I call, very postmodern approach to composition. And by that, what I mean is that
there is none.
Well, I saw him live, and basically he was pointing at different people at different times. It's like they had different instructions.
Or in the audience.
No, yeah, almost. He had quite a lot. It was like his 50th birthday, and he played the Barbican.
Oh, bloody hell!
Mike Patton was there, and a few other people.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, and I just think there is this aspect that if you find something in that tickles your perineum, And I think this is the same about this is this point about playing like challenging music. If someone goes, I'm interested in this, you just dive in, go into the deep side, because you don't, this idea that somehow some stuff is more accessible than others. I don't know. Like I hear what's called accessible music, and I think it's fucking atrocious. And I hear some like free jazz stuff, and I think it's atrocious. I hear other free jazz stuff, and I think it's the most incredible thing. So
I think as long as like Samson lost his strength when Delilah cut his hair.
yeah,
I think as long as I keep trying to play you techno and you keep trying to play me free jazz, this podcast will go on forever. It's just as strong as it ever is. If you had told me that was free jazz before playing it, I would have gone no. Which proves I'm wrong.
It's free jazz, but it's not free jazz because you can hear points where the band obviously are on the same page. They know what to do and they know what to do, not to do. And I remember when I got into and I heard about John Zorn. Our singer in Pissed Resistance, he had just moved to Australia, so we were sort of feeling out making the band go on further in a different direction and different do thing. And I got really into like noise rock at the time, but also being introduced by but bass-led noise rock, like, or jazz punk and stuff like that. And I wanted to introduce moments of free jazz into it. And I remember trying to tell the drummer, I was just going, okay, at this bar, from then on, we're just going to do make as much noise as we can without any sort of reference to any time signature. And then we look at each other and he goes, what do you want to count? No, remove the bar signature, just sort of like do something, interpret your own angst into a drum piece that is somehow also reacting to what the guitarist and I'm doing. And then, and the idea is that the idea was sort of to try and introduce chaos into the middle of a structure. And that's what John Zorn does all the time, is that he has a lot of his stuff is incredibly highly structured, but there is a freedom to it.
I liked it, I've got to say. I liked it. I think I was put off free jazz many, many years ago, and I went to Field Day, which is a festival in Victoria Park in London. And we went to go see, me and Dom, my drummer, went to go and see, I think it was Mogwai we wanted to see. And
free jazz?
We went into a tent and saw, he was like, oh, it's this thing called free jazz, and they're playing it in this tent. And we walked in, it was two people with the biggest saxophones I've ever seen. They're practically down at the floor. And there's video of this on YouTube. God, it's about 20 years ago. And they were just screeching and shouting. And it was the most intolerable thing I think I'd ever heard. There was no sense of fun to it. And it might have just been... No, actually, we thought it was the end of the set, like a finale, and we stayed there about 10 minutes, and no, it was that. It was just that. They were really famous people. I can't remember what their bloody names were. I
think for me, free jazz is a thing that you either go to a gig and it works or it doesn't work.
I want to see it. I want to see it live. I want to see this live.
And yeah, but free jazz, it either works or it doesn't work. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's absolute horseshit, and it's
Sam summarizes all music.
Right, but free jazz is, I think, quite frankly, rightly a marginal art form.
Yeah, some art forms you don't want to become popular. I was listening to the Wolf Now podcast today, and they were talking about it kind of being a surprise to everyone how popular grime got. So people like Stormzy, there's like a Stormzy McDonald's meal in the UK now. I don't want to be too much of a grumpy old man, but what the fuck?
Yeah,
I'd like to order the Stormzy, please.
That's like when you see Kim Deal selling H&M, it just feels wrong.
What? Kim Deal?
Yeah.
Do you mean Kim Deal?
It is Kim Deal with H&M, isn't it?
Was it Kim Deal from the Pixies, though? Do you know? Sure, you don't mean Kim?
Oh.
The other Kim. People screaming at their earphones.
Yeah.
Right now.
I like
Kim Gordon.
Kim Gordon.
Yeah, Kim Deal with H&M would be really surprising. Oh God, I love Kim Deal so much. I
If
could
we're
just
going to
listen to her
have more
talk
than,
and talk.
if we're only allowed to have 2 women in rock, can they just at least not have the similar fucking names?
It gets back when Kim Deal left the Pixies. The Frank Black replaced her with another bassist called Kim. So it's his fault. Right, on to my next choice, which is this. Oh, God, this is so obvious. Sometimes we do this podcast, and I think you really put thought into it. And I'm just the spud that kind of just has not much to say and makes really obvious choices. And I'm comfortable with that. So who was that?
Oasis?
That was the Oasises with Kim Deal.
Kim Gordon?
This is The Sword. And I chose it because they're an example to me of a band that got me into metal, but that I now no longer listen to at all. So I really dug Caius, and I got to Caius from Queens of the Stone Age, and then Fu Manchu, and a lot of this sort of the stonery stuff, which isn't metal really, it's blues played down tune. And then fuck knows how I heard The Sword. I think James Sherry, do you remember him? I think the PR guy, James Sherry, just gave me tickets, gave me a +1 to go see them at Colchester Arts Centre supporting Clutch. And I was just like, oh my God, this might be the best music I've ever heard. And I was so excited about The Sword, a Texan band, that they then played in London about 6 months later. And I took Emma and I took you to the Camden Barfly, which is a tiny little venue. And I had a lovely old time. I just enjoyed the riffs. And afterwards, you said to me, I don't get it. And I knew that, you'd been into metal your whole life. I was not a metaler at all. And I was like, what do you mean you don't get it? He said, it's just riffs. I was like, yeah, and that's why it's brilliant. No, it's not enough for me. And at the time, that I was so confused by that. And then you pushed me in front of a cab, and I got run over.
That's what happens in Camden.
I was so confused about what you'd said. Now, 15, possibly more years later, yeah, totally get what you mean. Doesn't go anywhere.
I'm sorry.
There's no journey with The Sword. Great riffs, but do something more. But it makes it very accessible as an introduction to metal, I think.
Oh, well, I mean, I never got into a lot of stoner stuff. I think I think it was sort of a point of like, and so I'm sorry. I feel bad now. Oh, I didn't want to put you off. I don't.
You didn't put me off. You just
I want to upset people on the internet. I don't know. I don't want to, and I want to. I want to frustrate. I don't want to upset my friends. I want to frustrate them.
Well, you set me on a track that ends up with me listening to music that my family asked me to switch off when it's only been on for 20 seconds. So you set me off. That's probably why I've not listened to much free jazz. It'd just be like, no. I do find with some extreme music on Saturday. I've been a little unwell, and I went to this gig on Saturday to film it. Oh, and just to hang out with my friends, and I had an unbelievable headache, like one of those headaches. And it started when there's a bit at the end of each of these new episodes where I'm doing a piece to camera, going, "Thanks for watching," blah blah. And my friend Matt was filming, and he put the light right in my face. It's a big, powerful filming light, and I got like a headache like that. Do you ever get it where it just goes bang? Now I've got a headache. And it was so unpleasant. It was one of those headaches where I was actually a little scared. I had to drive back from Bury, and I had to give obviously my child a lift because this is so cool. I dropped her off at a gig at the Hunter Club, which is about 50 feet away from the venue I was going to, and she went to a gig and hung out with her mates. And I was genuinely like, I think I might have to get a taxi to get everyone back to Ipswich from Bury because I don't think I'm going to be able to. So it was bad. And it meant I couldn't go in and listen to half the acts because it's so abrasive and so all-consuming at that venue. It's painfully loud. I mean, like, makes your vision blur levels of loud. And I can't be in there. I just can't do it. Yeah, I still managed to make a film because that's how dedicated I am. I don't know what the point was of me telling you that. Actually, now I've forgotten.
I like, yeah. Well, I mean, they're good riff, but maybe it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe 30 seconds is like a really nice tickle of the perineum, but it's not going to actually put a finger up anything.
Well, the second album was all right. Third album, they started to introduce some very suspect-sounding synths and went a bit kind of space rock, and I lost interest a little bit. But what can I say? My opinion doesn't matter. Let's play your next track.
Trapping everyone. War for territory. War for territory.
Oh, that bass and the little drum snare roll at the end, they're so fucking good. I would like this.
This is Sepultura Chaos AD, and that was the song Territory, he pronounces it, and timely, but also I thought about this. I've got my cousin's kid is about 15, and I think like yours, all they can afford these days, because they're so cheap, they go for CDs, they buy CDs, and it allows them some sort of ownership over the music, and and it's really nice to hear about and see youth sort of rediscovering physical objects in a way. So I've bought like a few things. I've doubled up on a few things on vinyl and CDs now, and I'm going to send my cousin's 15-year-old kid is really getting into sort of music. They're in a band as well, and every time I see them, they sort of want to talk about music with me because they know I'm such a nerd. And so I've got all this stuff doubled up, and I was just looking at it, and I get my wife going, "If you just clear some shit out of your closet, just get, And I just thought, well, rather than giving it to some secondhand store, why don't I send it to my cousin's kid as like a care thing? And that album, Chaos AD, is probably my gateway into extreme metal. And that was probably that was an album I think that was lent to me by the librarian in my school when I was about 14, 15.
Wow.
Yeah, he also lent me Dead Kennedys. Sepultura and Dead Kennedys really stick out from those as like above and beyond everything else. And I was like, yeah, why don't you send it? It's I don't know. They were surprisingly one of the biggest metal bands of the early 90s, and I think surprisingly because how heavy they actually are.
I just think they're so punk.
Yeah,
there's something about them that's so unrefined.
Yeah,
and so raw that the thing that put me off metal for so long was the 90s production, not just the late 90s, but the early 90s production. It's too clean.
Yeah,
I was listening to bands from the north who were recording albums for piss all money, and it sounded kind of rough. Sam's walking around his apartment here. I don't quite know why is he going into the toilet.
Taking off his trousers.
What are you doing?
Just moving space, so I'm self-conscious. I've never liked people here listening to my telephone calls.
Why have you moved?
My wife just came home.
Oh, you could have said hello to her. Anyway, right. Let's move on to my next track. But yeah, I like that. Is that a good first album to listen to for Sepultura? Because I
think it's the best album they did.
Okay, cool. Because I genuinely really like that. I mean, Roots Bloody Roots is the one that pops up on Six Music, and it's kind of cool and all, but it's just a bit formless for me. Whereas that's got some just moments of
this is like
that snap.
This is their transition from sort of like they did they changed every single album. They sort of got they always sort of they did a bit of they always got. I never thought they completely sold out, but a lot of people think they did with Roots because it was a bit too new metal. Whereas
Is Roots after this?
Yeah, Roots is after this, the album after
Okay,
this.
I would have placed them the other way around.
This is sort of like the breakthrough album. This is in terms of sales, and it's the best thing they did, though, in my opinion.
I'm going to listen to it, and it might be the final transition into me being an actual proper metaler if I start liking Sepultura.
You'll have to buy the they give you, if you actually like it, you get sent free in a post. When people find out, you get sent free in a post the Sepultura Brazil T-shirt, a Brazil football T-shirt. So you look, then you look like both a metal fan and a football fan.
I'm not interested in football in the slightest. And the joke used to be when people ask me, say, "No, I'm not into good football. I live in Ipswich." I can't say that now because Ipswich is a Premiership team. I think they're at the bottom. But there's certain crossover things I really like. So there's the Spinal Tap football T-shirt. I can't remember what team it is. There's St. Pauli. I'd wear a St. Pauli hoodie. They're like the Anarcho. They're a proper football team in Germany. They're like the Anarcho football team. And in punk circles, it's so normal to see St. Pauli.
Oh yeah, every single thing there's a St. Pauli. Yeah, and then there's also there's Roots Maneuver has a football T-shirt as well, which I almost bought because it's based around Witness the Fitness.
There's another team. It might be I think it's Barking and Dagenham. I could be wrong. But there's another one which is like staunchly anarcho as well in the UK, because a bunch of friends in Ipswich and the music scene who are really into football and really into music started going up to watch them, including Mickey Teaspoon. Mickey Teaspoon, before I met him, friend Daz, who I was in a band with, who was on this who's my co-host, my guest host, Ghost, a few weeks ago. I said, I had to go pick Mickey Teaspoon up, and I said, "How will I know it's him?" And he said, "When you look at him, you'll go, yeah, that's Mickey Teaspoon." And do you know what? I was in a car, and I saw this guy by the side of the road, and I looked at him. That's Mickey Teaspoon. It's really hard to explain, but he's got a nonsensical name that makes when you see him, you go, "Yeah, it's Mickey Teaspoon." Right. Let's move on from that nonsense to this wonderful thing. Oh shit!
Is that Black Sabbath?
Sorry to everyone who's listening to that. I love that so much. I mean, there's crapping hell. Good job I don't smoke anymore.
It's nice. It's a great podcast. Both of us have coughs.
I was actually off work sick. Well, in my world, that means I didn't get out of bed till about 10. That's about as far as I can push it. So do you know who that is?
Is it the Peanuts soundtrack?
It's from the Peanuts Christmas soundtrack, but the guy who wrote it is Vince. I can never say his name. Vince Guaraldi. Oh, it was the Vince Guaraldi trio.
Yeah.
Bona fide, really cool jazz, late 50s, early 60s jazz, to kind of, I think, roughly place it in time. And not only would I play that to someone who wants to get into jazz and needs a very easy route in, I'd play it to anyone who says all jazz is shit, because that is not, I mean, objectively, that is not shit. It's Linus and Lucy is the track, but Vince Guaraldi trio, just because I put it on every Christmas, just because it stops my mum from putting on a very Smurf Christmas, which is one of very...
Do you do the Snoopy dance? Or the dances that they do in the...
This is the absolute truth. I've never shared this with you. When I first met Emma, my wife, now I have, the second time I saw her, she did the Snoopy dance. She genuinely did. And I don't think she's done it since, But my heart just went boom. I literally just went, oh my god! Not only has this woman let me give her a Frenchie, she also does the Snoopy dance, and here we are 30 odd years later, or 30 years later.
Now, you didn't say, if I didn't like Emma, I would ask, what is the metaphor? What's the
I just think she just proved that she was silly. She was silly.
No, I know, but no. What's the metaphor? What's the sex act? The Snoopy dance.
Oh dear! It was balancing on top of the dog kennel. That was the tricky bit in the nurse's class. So yeah, that's again
go up the stairs.
Another quite simple.
No, I think it's all these things. It's like it reminded me of Dave Brubeck Take 5. Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of it serves a purpose, and a lot of it not serves the purpose of sort of like your ears prick up. There's something about it that you just sort of go, yeah, that's great. I think Nina Simone is another great one for a lot of people into jazz and stuff like that.
I chose this just as the most obvious one, but much like Have a Crooner, I literally just grabbed a random 30 seconds. I thought I don't know the album well enough to pick the right bit, but this one I just chose it as the most obvious thing. Although the first track I prepared a section of Love Supreme by Coltrane. I thought, no, I think this would still be first.
I mean, frankly, I like Coltrane, Love Supreme, but I don't know that Love Supreme, Love.
No,
it's a bit annoying. Actually.
That's why I didn't choose it, because I thought that would have been the bit I chose, because that is the bit. But it's kind of mumbly, isn't it? Love Supreme, and I just thought, no, that wouldn't be the first thing. Although I do put that on when we have family come over. I almost always put Love Supreme by Coltrane on, and just have it on in the kitchen in my office, just so that when I'm sorting out the dishwasher and being a middle class dad, lower middle class dad, lower upper working class.
I Love Supreme is borderline free jazz.
It is, and God, it got bizarrely that made me listen. Love Supreme made me listen to What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, and it took me till my early 40s to get why that album is so astonishing. And I still don't really understand why it is. I don't understand the depth behind it.
Oh, there's an aspect of like that smooth soul stuff that I don't get at all, frankly. Like I keep trying to listen to Curtis Mayfield, who did stuff like Superfly and those.
Have you seen the Sly Stone documentary? I meant to message you about it while I was watching it.
Oh yeah, I have seen the Sly Stone documentary.
I was surprised how much I enjoyed that, actually.
No, it was great. It was really good.
It didn't go the direction I thought. Well, it inevitably did go the direction I thought it would, but
I don't know if I finished it. Oh fuck!
I stopped it halfway through because I wanted to save it. I didn't want to stay up really late and watch the whole thing, so I stopped it because I wanted it to carry on entertaining me. I mean, because Emma's away, I've been working till late, and then I'll watch something for an hour. I've been watching documentaries on YouTube about the history of British biscuits.
And I can improve that. That's what the internet is good at.
Oh,
everything else, just turn the fucking thing off.
And they're made by. There's one on crisps I watched, one on biscuits, and one on chocolate bars. All narrated by Dawn French and made by Channel 4. That's I love the fact Channel 4 is publicly owned. But shit, we've gone over an hour, so we need to play your last choice. It's this. A surprising choice.
That was Jose Afonso with Cantar Alan Adanio. Portuguese. He's a Portuguese. He's a very important artist in the history of Portugal because it was his music, a song of his, particular song of his, not that one, that was played. That was a signal for the military to join in with the protests and take down the government.
Oh, in the late 70s?
In 1974.
Yeah, 1974.
Yeah, so last 50th anniversary last year, and I was recently in Portugal, and we were around the corner from where we were staying. It was the Parliament, and opposite the Parliament was a little venue and shop dedicated to Jose. What's it called? Jose Afonso, and you see something like that when you're on holiday. You sort of see something like that, and if you're like me, you just go, "Oh, I wonder what that sounds like," and you just put it on, and that stuff, just sort of seeing those big artists, those big sort of can be gateways. I don't think I'm ever going to become an aficionado of Portuguese folk, but does it widen your sort of repertoire and your understanding of the world? I think it does, and that's happened to me a few places we've gone, and a few places I've been, and it's the same thing of just sort of like, I'm interested in Finnish music and the history of Finnish music. Therefore, where do you start? You start in Hanoi Rocks.
I always forget they're Finnish. Listeners or viewers, Sam lives in Helsinki in Finland, just to give that some context.
But it's always that thing of like, I guess it's the message is sort of like if you're looking into if you're interested in something yourself, it's not always the worst thing to start at the most obvious point.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Well, that's why I chose Linus and Lucy.
Yeah, and like. So, you're going to, I don't know, go to New Orleans, listen to Louis Armstrong. He gives you the early Louis Armstrong stuff, gives you the basis of what New Orleans jazz sounds like. And it's just like a reference point for what you'll hear. And there probably won't be anything as good as that these days, but that's because it was a point in time, and there's whole issues around like tourist markets and jazz and all that stuff.
What? Are there?
No, in New Orleans there are.
Oh, right. Sorry. It just meant like in general. I was saying, never been aware of that in Ipswich.
But it's also for me like, I occasionally get interested in like, I wonder what English folk music, because the English folk music can, it's got massively long history, loads of sort of fascinating songs. And I found myself listening to occasionally to Billy Bragg and just going, I'm not interested in English folk music. Then I hear something else.
Bert Jansch, though. I played you some Bert Jansch, and you went, what is this? It's really good.
Yeah, can you send me it again? And that's it. It's sort of like, I don't know, Billy Bragg sometimes is a bit, I don't know, voice grates with me. And then I heard some, it's just like, where do you want to start? Maybe sometimes starting at the obvious place is good, but don't expect that to be everything. So don't just leave it there. As in, listen to Black Sabbath, but not all metal is Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath is metal, but not all metal is Black Sabbath.
Like, not everyone who voted for Brexit was racist, but all racists voted for Brexit. That kind of paradigm.
I think some of them were just couldn't be bothered to vote. That sort of thing. All misogynists who voted for Donald Trump, but not all Donald Trump voters are misogynistic.
I'm getting confused with language there, but it's just because we've been recording for an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm going to play the last track, and I've chosen this one because have you ever played a friend a song just to sort of see what the reaction is? Just like firing a shot across the bows.
Oh, yeah.
Navel. Just sort of go, I'm not going to build it. I'm just going to Just going to send it. I just want to let you know the Bert Jansch album that I'm going to send you. I'm saying this on air is fucking hell, I've lost it. Avocet. It's called Avocet. There's a bunch of Bert Jansch albums. There's Black Swan, Blackbirds of Brittany, Moonshine, but they seem to have gone through a bird phase. So I'll send you that. I'll send you the title link, which I'll put in the show notes as well. But here's a song that I would play as just a shot across the bows, just to see how somebody would react to it.
Yeah, I'm game. What's that?
I'm so surprised when I prepared the clips for this yesterday. I was like, Sam's going to go, no, which is the reaction it gets whenever I play that in this house. But for me, that track, when I first heard it, that's halfway through. You're missing the whole brilliant build-up, the orchestral build-up. But when I first heard it, the sense of fun and joy that it instilled in me, much like what you were saying about Naked City. What was the guy behind Naked City?
John Zorn.
John Zorn. Like you said, when you heard that, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what it is. It's nuts, but it's just, yeah. This is Venetian Snares.
Oh, I know Venetian Snares. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the tracks Hajnal, Hajnal. But if I play that to someone and they like it or are not angry and push me under, push me out of their house, then I think, right, that sort of opens up the ability for us to enjoy a lot of quite odd music. It's like a gateway band, but I love that track, and I have to make sure I don't listen to it too often, because I'll get to the stage where I end up hating it just because I've heard it too much. But however many times I hear it, I tried to make music like that. Oh my God, it's genuine. Like, how do you do that? Because it's not random in the slightest. It's like some sort of incredibly complex mathematical thing, because it's all drums placed on a time roll and samples and all kinds of mad stuff.
I mean, I don't. It's like a really busy drum and bass jungle sort of thing, isn't it? Not being rude about it, but that's the basis of it.
I think that's certainly where it came from. I think at the time this sort of stuff was called breakcore, but like it's become like a meme that no one actually knows what breakcore is, and so stuff just gets called breakcore. But yeah, I think that's a lot of fun. Right, we ought to wrap it up there, because I need a wee and I need to have some lunch.
Sure.